Recently, in China, the three main requirements for marriage from men have emerged. First, they refuse the bride price. Second, a medical examination before marriage is mandatory. Third, a paternity test must be done. Women also responded, saying, "These 3 points, I have no problem with any of them." But women also have 3 demands. First, you must live separately from your parents. Second, your romantic history must be clean. No ex-boyfriends, no cohabitation, and no one you've gotten pregnant. Can this be verified? Third, if there are children, the daughter stays with the mother, and the son stays with the father and his family, or else, no children. Personally, I think the third point is quite strict. What do you think?
I am a successful man, and I know that beyond financial success, there's another ultimate form of success: choosing the right partner. A suitable partner is like the most important business partner in my life. That's right, a business partner. Therefore, having rich relationship experiences allows me to select an excellent partner. This happens through quantity, which leads to a transformation in quality. Over time, with enough interaction, I can identify what is good, what is bad, what suits me, and what doesn't. They say choosing the right husband guarantees a lifetime of happiness, and choosing the wrong wife can destroy 3 generations. Honestly, that's not true. What truly matters is having an excellent wife. If I find a woman who is an outstanding partner, I'm already ahead of more than 90% of men. An excellent wife is someone who, when I'm unsure, reminds me of what needs to be done. For example, if I've been drinking, she tells me not to drive the next day or stops me when I'm making a mistake and offending someone. Like any man, I also have my flaws. Many times, I can be arrogant or make impulsive decisions. That's where my wife steps in, not hesitating to criticize me. That criticism is also an important reminder. Often, I don't notice my own shortcomings, but my wife points them out and makes me reflect, which helps me mature and become more balanced. In this way, I can avoid magnifying my mistakes and handle life in a healthier way. Now, in a relationship, I know I can provide everything a woman needs. However, if she doesn't meet my demands, there's no point in continuing the relationship. Some of these demands might seem simple, like not having a personal trainer at the gym. That's obvious, and I won't even get into it. But one of my most basic requirements is that when I come home, I want my meal to be ready. That's the bare minimum a wife should do. I also believe that marriage is like a business. The partner is fundamental. If I have that kind of partnership, I know my life will be much smoother. I have great respect for my wife. I know many other men who also have tremendous respect for their wives. If a man doesn't know how to respect his partner, if he doesn't have the proper regard for her, then that man is on a path to destruction. It's like in business, where you need to respect and communicate with your partner as much as possible to complement each other's strengths and support one another. Marriage is the same. If I have a successful marriage, it means, in a way, I've already succeeded. And trust me, when the marriage goes well, my career also thrives. I always hear the phrase, "A harmonious home prospers in all things." And it's true because, in a relationship, when personalities complement each other and there's mutual support in tough times, things genuinely flourish. If I don't have a partner who reminds me of my mistakes, who helps me reflect, then it would be very easy to make errors. That's why I believe the partner, the wife, is crucial to my life and success. At least, that's how I've managed to get this far. Do you think having the right partner is important? For me, it's essential. A man's greatest success is finding a good wife. And that is, without a doubt, immeasurably important for my life.
会越来越多的男人都不喜欢女人了呢？条件越好，档次越多。
Why do so many men nowadays not like women anymore? The better the conditions, the more single they are. They'd rather stay single than get married. This phenomenon is backed by complex social psychology and personal choices. I have a big nephew, he's 1.8 meters tall, works as a business department manager in a state-owned enterprise. He's capable and good-looking, absolutely top tier. But something he said really touched the hearts of single men. Over 90% of men share this sentiment. My nephew, not only is he outstanding at work, but he also earns a good income and, through his own efforts, bought a car and a house. He's very considerate and never made his family worry. But when it comes to the matter of marriage, he made his family anxious. He has absolutely no interest in women, and my brother's family is in a hurry for grandkids. They're desperate. It seems my nephew has his own unique perspective on marriage. He never really thought about getting married, and he doesn't seem interested in women at all. He shared with me the 3 main reasons why he doesn't want to get married, and after listening carefully, I think they make some sense. Let's analyze together why today's younger generation isn't interested in women anymore and doesn't want to marry. The first reason he mentioned is that women nowadays are generally more materialistic. He told me a story from a year ago when he dated a woman, which left him exhausted. The woman asked for gifts during holidays and had very high demands. If it wasn't a big brand, she wouldn't like it. She demanded red envelopes as gifts, and there couldn't be any mistakes. Also, they had to travel frequently, even though he was too busy at work to find time. She still insisted on dates and wanted everything to be extravagant. If he didn't meet her expectations, she would call him stingy, say he was incapable, or even criticize him for not owning a luxury car. Was he supposed to live like this? Wasn't she just a woman with a low income, living paycheck to paycheck, and often asking her parents for money? Their values were too far apart, and in the end, the relationship fell apart. The second reason was that he saw many of his friends, just to get married, exhausted their family's savings. The wedding day seemed grand, but who could feel the financial pressure behind it? The cost of decorating a house could be over 200,000, and the bride price was even higher. A few days ago, when I went back to my hometown for a wedding, I was talking to people there. They said that for this marriage, the bride price alone was 300,000, plus 5 kilos of gold and wine. In total, they spent 500,000 just to get married. But after the wedding, it was all about the mundane, daily life. The sweet romance of dating seemed far away. They were both only children, and neither was willing to compromise. With the divorce rate so high now, it's easy to imagine how small domestic issues could lead to arguments, even to divorce. Divorce affects property division, daily life, and personal career development. Given all this, it might be better to live alone, do whatever you want, free and unrestrained. The third point he raised is that in today's society, once you get married, all the burdens of life fall on the man. Marriage gives men multiple roles: father, husband, and the pillar of the family. They have to help their children with studies and take care of all sorts of housework. When children need to attend school, you might need to buy a house in a good district or pay for extracurricular lessons. On top of that, you still have to travel. Everything costs money, and no matter what, there's always something to spend on. People love to compare. If your child is going somewhere, you must take them out to see the world too, right? Otherwise, you'll be considered inferior, and it'll be embarrassing. Property management and the pressure on men are invisible but real. If you have a reasonable wife, things will be easier, but if your wife is dominant, then the man becomes the culprit, stuck in the middle, possibly even fighting over how much money to give each side of the family. Compared to that, living alone sounds pretty free, doesn't it? No car loans, no mortgage. You can handle your own meals, or just order takeout if necessary, and casually visit your parents. Life is simple, and you still have money to save. Why tie yourself down with the shackles of marriage? He has expressed the helplessness of marriage through these words. Life is just a pile of gold dust. Whether to get married or not, each person has their own happiness. The older generation longs for family bliss, while our generation. As for whether our children get married or not, let them decide. As for single, childless lives, they've chosen a lifestyle different from traditional views, and everyone's perspective is worth respecting. What do you think about this? Feel free to leave a comment below, and let's discuss.
When I observe men at the top of society, I notice something very clear: they have little to no interest in women. They don't have the time or energy to guide a young woman through emotional growth, nor do they have any real needs when it comes to women. After facing major challenges, all that matters to these men is the benefit something can bring. Anything else barely catches their attention. What surprises me is how many young women still don't understand what these men are really like. They confuse nice guys who are always available to talk with high-value men. But the truth is, these nice guys usually don't have a solid career, aren't busy with anything significant, and try to win women over by offering nothing more than emotional support or flattery. Real men, the ones who are truly successful, don't have the time to chat all day. They don't let just any woman disturb their emotions. The journey to the top requires them to leave behind everything irrelevant, including people and situations that don't add value. After going through so many disappointments and upheavals, these men's hearts become numb. They no longer hold on to illusions and focus solely on their own world. And if you don't bring any value to a man like this, believe me, he won't waste even one extra word, no matter how good your relationship was in the past.
How big is the difference in needs between men and women? Men and women have different needs, right? You see, men usually don't need you to love them, but they need you to understand them. Women, on the other hand, they don't need you to understand them, but they need you to love them. See the difference? What he's doing, you don't need to know, but he just needs you to love him. No matter what, you have to love him. But a man isn't like that, right? He doesn't need you to care about him, he doesn't need you to do anything for him, but he needs you to understand what he's doing, understand the logic behind things, understand the bigger picture. He needs understanding, while women need love. These needs are very different. Let's talk about 3 of these needs that are quite distinct between the sexes. The first is the physiological need. A man tends to be more passionate, he leans toward variety, and he craves novelty. These are the physiological needs of a man. Now, for women, they prioritize emotional communication, feelings, companionship, emotional connection, and bonding with their partner. See, this is completely different, right? The man wants something quick and practical, while the woman seeks quality time, being together, and sharing life. The second need is related to interests. What do men like? They tend to be interested in politics, military affairs, and major global events. They talk about Trump, Putin, the US, world issues. What do women watch? They watch content about personal care, fashion, accessories, hair, or celebrity gossip. The interests are completely different. You can just look at your husband's phone. The content he gets is completely different from yours. The difference is clear. Also, in emotional communication, men prefer to be direct and to the point. I've talked about this in another video. When there's something to say, they want it to be straightforward. For example, when a woman says, "You don't love me anymore," the man gets confused, he doesn't understand. What she should say is something more concrete, like, "You've been distant this week, you didn't come close to me." That's something a man can understand. But women usually don't say it that way. They just say, "You don't love me," and that's it. So, while men prefer to be straightforward, women expect you to understand them without needing to explain everything. They want you to know even before they say it. This is a big difference in emotional communication between the sexes. And this also shows up in conflicts, like arguments between couples or friends thinking about breaking up. The needs of men and women are different, whether it's physiological, what they enjoy, or their emotional needs. So, sometimes, to love truly, it's necessary to make sacrifices and adjust the way we communicate. Only then can we live together more harmoniously. And it's important to note that a man can provide anything for a woman, but once he doesn't receive the bare minimum in return, it makes no sense to stay in the relationship. Balance is key for both to feel valued and loved.
Have you noticed? In recent years, men are becoming more and more clear-headed. They rarely take the initiative to go downhill to chase after a girl. Finally, men have figured it out. When your girlfriend gives you a simple gift like a pack of cigarettes worth $100, it makes you look good in front of others. But try giving her a $100 gift, you'll only get disdain in return. With $100, you can treat yourself, but for a partner, $100 only buys dissatisfaction. That's why wise men avoid falling in love. And let me tell you, it's serious. Responsibilities? Men are tossing them aside. These days, they don't even dare to flirt with women anymore. Why?
Because as soon as the conversation starts, she says she's hungry, her skincare products are finished, her phone is broken, the rent is due, and her credit card bill is coming up. It's as if you're dealing with someone who has nothing but bare walls in her home. But here's the flip side. When they don't have a girlfriend, their money seems endless. A big launch like Black Myth, Wukong? They buy it without a second thought. The car they like? They already own it. When they transfer $520 as a token, they post it on social media, but with the stories hidden from some people. Spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a fancy dinner. The photos they share only feature themselves. So guys, it's time to wake up. A life without love is much lighter. And if you can't find a true love where both partners fully commit, well, an occasional massage for relaxation isn't such a bad idea either.
The guys I used to look down on in the past, now they're rejecting me. And I, feel like I'm losing my appeal, but still, they're rejecting me. Is it really that hard to find someone? Let me explain her situation. She's from 1990, so she's not that young anymore. She works in skincare management and earns around $10,000 a year, which isn't bad. But the issue is, besides one, she hasn't had much luck finding someone. Her family has introduced her to many people, but she didn't like any of them. Even a guy with a good financial situation, she wasn't interested. Then, she started dating a guy who was also introduced by the family, but she found out he had a huge debt, so she broke up with him. She went after the guy who hadn't pursued her before, because she thought he was a bit short. But now, she started to think that maybe he could be a good option since his conditions were a little better. In the end, she approached this guy, but he wasn't interested either. Now she's desperate and asked me, what kind of man should she look for? She said, I don't have very high demands, but at least the guy should earn $50,000 to start. And he should have stability, at least for 3 years. He also needs to have a house and a car, and the house shouldn't be smaller than 160 square meters. And, at least, he should be 1.75 m tall. Considering I'm 1.62 m, it's not such a big ask. She also mentioned she doesn't want a guy over 88 kilograms because she thinks having kids might be a problem. She could accept a younger guy, but he must earn at least $50,000. As for his parents, she hopes they have a pension or a good professional position, like a pension from a high-ranking job. If not, she expects the guy to be successful in business. She even mentioned that the last guy she met had the conditions she wants, but she rejected him because he was short and not very attractive. Now she says she wants a guy who's not too ugly, but with a cleaner, sharper look, more sophisticated. And, look, this kind of behavior is not rare. Many men, after reaching a certain financial and professional level, start becoming extremely demanding. They feel they now have more options, so they look for someone who fits higher and higher standards, as if they're competing to maintain a certain status. This often makes the focus shift more toward an idealized image, rather than a true connection. She asked me, am I asking for too much? What do you think? Are these requirements too high or normal?
I saw a video where the presenter asked women on the streets about their criteria for choosing a partner. Many said they expected a man with at least 1 million yuan in savings, a car and house without debts, and a monthly salary of at least 10,000 yuan. But how many men can actually meet these requirements? The reality is that only 0.05% of the population earns over 1 million yuan per year, 0.1% earns over 500,000 yuan, and 14.3% earns more than 100,000 yuan annually. These numbers include both men and women, and if we exclude women from the equation, the figures drop even lower. For a man earning 8,000 yuan per month, he's already among the top 15% richest people in the country. Yet even so, he would have no chance of competing for the women interviewed, showing that many men simply can't meet the high standards imposed by these women, but still feel pressured to meet these expectations. Under this weight, more and more men are starting to question, who am I living for? Today, they no longer blindly follow societal expectations, but begin to focus on their own needs and feelings. They no longer accept the logic of having to pay for love. Many stop being dogs chasing attention and begin to invest more in themselves, whether in their careers or hobbies, rather than constantly trying to please others. They've realized that love shouldn't be a one-way street and that responsibility shouldn't be a burden placed solely on one person. Is this change wrong? In my opinion, no. Men today are no longer willing to carry unfair responsibilities. On the contrary, this represents personal liberation and a more rational choice. Male irresponsibility is linked to the redefinition of self-worth, understanding that responsibility should be shared and that a relationship like marriage should be built with mutual love and support. There is a growing movement in China where some women are gradually pushing men to not marry. This banquet of demands will eventually create a negative reaction. Men won't become winners, and in the end, women will lose even more. Only then will they realize what they're really doing. Recently, we've seen women becoming increasingly demanding of men, not just asking for houses, cars, and engagement gifts, but also asking for rights like the husband's last name, for him to share household chores, not support the in-laws, and provide emotional value. They don't realize that a family should be built with shared responsibility where both work together. In fact, they know this, but continue to use marriage to maximize their own interests. What do these women want? They expect that by marrying, they can easily get all the resources they desire. They use fertility, something men can't offer, as an advantage. And if a man responds firmly, they simply block him with the phrase, "If you were capable, you could have children." This approach, full of demands, may end up backfiring. Men, especially urban ones, are beginning to realize they no longer need to worry about continuing the family lineage. If they can't have children, there's no reason to get married, right? In this scenario, urban men no longer feel pressured by marriage. When they find the right person, they try. If they don't, they simply accept what life offers them. They can live well on their own. If men start adopting a negative stance toward marriage, it will be women who suffer. Those who keep saying don't want to marry actually do. They want children and a family. But they use their children as bargaining chips to get more benefits from men. When men no longer accept the rules of the game, women may feel lost and anxious. It's time for us to reflect on the concept and attitude toward marriage, seeking a more balanced and harmonious marital relationship. Consumerism is influencing women, manipulating them to become more demanding, and this ends up creating indirect control over men. Women end up clashing with men, and even with their own future. In the end, they're the ones who pay the consequences, while men, no longer burdened by the obligation to form a family, move forward. Mutual destruction is what results from this cycle. In conclusion, I see male irresponsibility not as an escape from responsibilities, but as a response to society's irrational expectations. Perhaps it's time for society to let go of these heavy demands and offer more freedom and understanding to men so they can take on their responsibilities in a lighter and more balanced environment. What do you think about this change in men? Do you think this awakening of theirs is a sign of a larger transformation? If you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. See you in the next video.